I am Dr. Anita Edwards, and I am treasurer for Gateway Medical Society. Our president will be here later on to give you words and also do a presentation later on. So I appreciate those of you who've gotten up early this morning. I know it was early for me. When I rolled over at 6:30, I was like, and it was still dark, so that didn't help any. So I appreciate you who have made it out this early in the morning and has come to another one of our community symposiums, CARES. She just told me, community access to resources, education, and support. So, and for those of you who are new to Gateway Medical Society, we were founded in Pittsburgh in 1963, and we're a component of the National Medical Association. At one time, African American physicians could not join the AMA or American Medical Association, and so therefore the NMA was developed, and although now we have access, we still feel it is important for some issues that we continue to try to reach out and do the work of the NMA. And so we have historically served Black physicians and their community. The mission centers on promoting health care and general welfare for minorities and socioeconomically challenged population in the Southwest Pennsylvania. The mission includes closing health care disparity, fostering diversity and including in medicine, and offering educational and community resources. So we hope that we are fulfilling that mission today. And we have 2 or 3 topics. You see my slides are advancing by themselves. We have 2 or 3 topics that we are going to be doing today. The first one, we're going to be talking about Medicare reform, and I'm going to start this off with saying that this is not a political talk. This is not a political talk. We're not trying to make changes as far as what is already being done, but what we do think is that if we inform the community, that then they will be able to thrive, not just survive, but actually thrive through the changes that probably are coming down the pipeline. We realize that the budget has not been established as of yet, so we are waiting for them to actually do the budget to actually know what actually will go through. But we do have a sense of what is going through, and so therefore we're going to try to help you today to understand those changes, and then what you can do to, if you need or somebody else you know need resources and how to make them effective. So as I said, this talk is thriving through the Medicaid reform and how to take care of yourself and your community. I must preference this by saying that this talk was given to me. The person who prepared it was just realm with full of information, so I'm going to do my best. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm going to do my best in trying to present this information. So the main thing that we realize that is coming down the pipeline is that there's going to become a work requirement. The work requirement probably is for those people who don't have medical issues but are still receiving Medicaid. And so it's for a particular type of population out there. And some of the things that they're asking to engage in is employment, either full or part-time. And I believe you have to at least be doing 40 hours. It used to be only 20 hours, but I think it's now 40 hours. Job training, school attendance, and volunteering. And as I said down here, it says this is 20 hours, but I think that's what it may be now, but it will, we believe it's going to go up to 40. So you might say, well, why have they made these mandates? Why are they taking us through these changes? And the policymakers don't want the population to be dependent on Medicaid. And I think that, well, I don't know what they think. I'm like Judge Judy. I should never try to repeat what somebody else thinks or say. I can go by what is happening. So what they are trying to do that we know of is they're trying to promote self-sufficiency. They want you to actually go out and get a job and work. And probably like many of us today. But we know there are some circumstances that sometimes hinder people from being able to do that. But I do think that most people are trying to be self-sufficient in one way or other. And I also think that when they choose not to, it is because of something that maybe is needed at that particular time. So they're trying to encourage a different behavior. And with that, they feel that by having these work requirements, that will help to shape that new behavior. This is very similar to the TAF and the SNAP program that is already out there. But it has been noted that by the Kaiser Family Foundation that already 63% of non-elderly adults that are in Medicaid are working. So again, it's not that people don't want to work. We realize sometimes jobs don't have benefits. So, you know, even though you might be working, you may not always get the benefits that you need. Many people still live below the poverty line, even though they are trying to work. I think it's amazing that people, the salaries that people get at places like fast foods, you can't live and sustain off of those kind of salaries. So it's not that people don't want to, it just may be that they cannot sustain themselves on what they're given. Another big thing is a lot of people are caregivers. And I think this is the one country that maybe does not prepare for caregivers. I mean, I think a lot of countries already have it set up in their family structure of how the elderly would be taken care of. But here, we don't. And, you know, saying a nursing home is almost taboo to a lot of families. A lot of people try to keep their elderly out of the nursing homes. And even as a physician, I understand that sometimes. I really do. And even if you have them in the nursing home, you still need to be their advocate. You need to be down there. You need to be sitting with them. You need to be making sure they're receiving the care. So still, someone has to take the time to take care of our elderly as they progress. And then some people are maybe not considered disabled, but they still have poor health. And with that, so they may not have that full eligibility for Medicaid, but they are still not able to fully work. And then we have our students, and we have foster care, and then we have people who have come out of our criminal system. So these are the people that we're probably talking about very much today. And as the bottom of the slide said, it's not so much that these people don't want to work, but a lot of times it's the problems is trying to fill out the forms. We were just talking about this, how difficult it is to fill out these forms, how difficult it is to find access to internet so that you can keep your forms up to date and stay certified as it is required. So what is the history to all of this? Before Affordable Care Act, there really was not a requirement for work as far as the federal government was concerned. They had that some states through a waiver program, which is really like a project, or try to see if making other eligibilities worked and deterred. And we're going to talk about one that they did before. But then after the Accountable Care Act and an expansion, The expansion was to cover low-income children, and with childless adults. The expansion was to cover low-income childless adults with poverty levels of 138%. In doing that, and we always hear about how they have to bargain in the Senates and the representatives in the houses, there was a trade-off, and the trade-off was that there would also be a work requirement to go along with letting these people have Medicaid. We're going to talk about the waiver, the $1,500, and then during the Trump area, that's when they started trying to apply the work requirements to see if they worked. 13 states were approved, 9 did not get theirs through. And then as you go down to the bottom, that was where the federal courts said that this was inconsistent with really what Medicaid was supposed to be about. Because Medicaid was really supposed to give medical care and not be trying to govern who is working and who is not working. So then Biden actually came around and tried to remove the workforce requirements through his administration. But now as we're going through this administration, we see that those requirements are coming back. So who will really be affected? Again, older women. And the reason older women is because, again, like I talked about, they may not be fully disabled, but maybe they're only able to work part-time. Maybe they have some chronic disease. Again, maybe they're also being a caregiver, and so they are not able to work full-time, and so they need care. Again, the unpaid caregiver. Many times, as I said, we're taking care of our elderly, but we're not being paid for it. Individuals with certain behavioral issues. If you have some depression, substance abuse, anxiety, and maybe still can't work, then you're not truly eligible for Medicaid because that's not considered a chronic disease. Now, if you stay on there long enough, I believe some of these disease states can be covered, but you have to be on there for a while. I learned something new, a gig worker. Gig worker is like someone who may be an entrepreneur, working for themselves, that kind of thing. The most common thing I think they talk about is like a Uber worker or Lyft worker. And so again, don't have any benefits, don't have consistent hours, maybe don't have someone who can actually say, they work this many hours for this time because they're employed. And because they're really working for themselves. And so that's some people who will be affected. People in the rural area will also be affected. Again, question of the amount of jobs out in the area. And then do they have internet? Do they have transportation? Hospitals and doctor's offices and things are not really close out in the rural area. We know up in Redding and Lehigh County, this is really a problem with transportation and trying to get people to specialists. Those people who are limited in their ability to speak English will also probably have problems because, again, they got to fill out these forms and trying to hold on to that kind of work. Those who are homeless or unhoused, I think sometimes the new words that we use is unhoused, and you need an address. And they will assign you an address or a mailbox, but then you got to keep that up. That's not free. So these people also have a problem, and then they also need internet. We don't realize how important internet is, and it's not free in the United States. Again, our young people who come out of foster care, there's something called MAGA, and that is where they look at your average group income. And when people are coming out of the foster care, they could be thrown into an income that's probably higher than what they have because they don't have any income. And you leave foster care at the age of 18, so now you have these youth who are out here and they don't have any medical care, they don't really have any income, and they don't have the support of their families sometimes when they are coming out. And then those in our justice system, and I think that affects us quite a bit, because once one of our youths get into the justice system, they seem not to be able to get out. And it's a shame, you know, they need a job when they come out, and there's nothing that actually helps them obtain that job. People don't want to hire them, we should be honest. And how many of us really would want to hire? You might hire your family, but would you really hire somebody who has just came out of jail or prison? So we know they have a problem finding work, and since this is one of the requirements, we know that's going to be a deterrent. As I said, there has been some projects that have been tried in the past. Arkansas did try to see if by instilling work, would it make a difference? And they saw 18,000 people lose coverage in 6 months. 95% lost due to the failure of reporting, not because they weren't working. So again, it's this reporting, which we're going to talk about, is going to be the issue with people. And there was no measurable increase in the employee. Although they had 18,000 people lose coverage, they did not see any increase in state employment, which you would have thought they would have seen if people were really getting jobs. Also, the Kaiser family also saw that 16 to 17% of Medicaid expansion adults are at risk of losing coverage if work requirements are implemented. So we have to understand there's going to be a lot of people out here who aren't going to have health care. And as much as we preach, you know, take care of yourself, preventive care, check your breast, go get your mammograms. If you don't have health coverage, you can't do any of those things. And I'm not saying you can't, but if you don't have money, you can't afford to go do those things. And so those people end up in the emergency room very ill, very sick, and then I think that's even a more expensive cost to us than if we would have just covered them earlier for preventive care. Because now we're taking care of the very sick in our ICUs because they have not had health care. And at that point, they can't turn them down. And people can end up in the hospitals for months. And again, we find out that some of the hurdles was more documentation and inconsistent work hours than anything. So this documentation and people needing to be able to document is really the big problem. I could go on, but some of the things I just want to talk about is just maybe some solutions we should think about. We need to build support around our social needs, which is what the lovely people who are here today is going to help us talk about. But, you know, our communities are going to have to do more. Our churches, our nonprofit organizations, those things that we belong to, we're going to have to be out there and helping people. We can't just stand by. I know I belong to a church, very active in my church. Just telling them we're going to pray for them is not going to help. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think the Medicaid decline is going to be because of people not having access to the resources?
Yeah, that's what we feel. We feel that the need for them to certify and the need for them to document their work hours is going to be what's going to be probably the biggest deterrent of them being able to stay on Medicaid.
And you're saying that's where like the non-profits, the churches, and the other outside organizations come in?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think on one slide, and we'll get to it in a minute, you know, we can even set up, you can even have like a drive where people can come and
Right.
sign up for Medicaid and make sure that they're doing their redetermination and working through that part. And again, as we see this stuff shrinking, we can try to figure out what food and housing and child care, how can we help in those areas, because we know we're going to see a rise in those areas. And then again, communities can try to be that safety net. Jesus told us we had to be our brother's keeper, so we have to continue in that area. Health literacy, I talked about how so many people also don't have the ability to know the language. and so we can help. So many people can't read, and things have to be on a 6th grade level, but some people can't read to a 6th grade level. And they're embarrassed to say anything, so they walk out with papers and information, and they have no idea what's on those papers. And so we have to advocate for these people. We have to stand in the gap for them. We have to be the ones that really help them get through this. And then finally, we have to invest in our young people. You know, once they get in the jail system, we've kind of lost them. When our children are in foster care, we need to be there still advocating for them. So communities really need to help in those areas and equip them with jobs. I say it's the same, they come out of high school, and if they're not college material, they don't usually come out with a skill that they can do anything. And that really probably needs to be worked on, but that's a different topic. So we need to be creating spaces for our young people, mentorships, neighborhood programs, and hopefully we can help fill the gap for what is possibly coming down the line. So that was just an introduction into what the reform is going to look like, just so we would have a sense of what this conversation is going to be about. And so at this point, I'm going to start introducing our speakers. They can come back toward the table. And we do have one more speaker that's on her way. I don't know about you, but I live on the east side of town, and if you came down the Parkway, it wasn't easy. So somebody else is shaking their head. They should tell us when they're going to block the streets up. They forget that part. But we are right now, we have Colleen Young from the Food Bank, and we have Colleen Miller and Vince, say that again? Tarquinio, and they are both from Holy Family, and they're going to give you 5-10 minutes of what they do, what they think about the reform, how they think things can work. And then after we hear all of this, we'll go through a question and answer period of how we can get information from them. Colleen, you want to start?
Is this already on? Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. As Dr. Edwards said, I am Colleen Young with the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, and I'm the Director of Government Affairs. And actually, I'm here to talk to you about SNAP. So if you're not familiar with SNAP, it's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, sometimes referred to as food stamps. And along with the Medicaid changes that Dr. Edwards described, there are various, actually just now started as of September 1st, SNAP changes that are taking effect in Pennsylvania, and we want to make sure that everyone is aware of those changes because most adults between the ages of 18 and 64 will be required to file some sort of paperwork in order to protect their SNAP benefits. It could be a very simple one-time paperwork that you have to file, or it could be regular ongoing paperwork, but regardless, if we don't make the community aware that those changes are taking effect right now, we could start seeing people lose their SNAP benefits as early as this December. So we want to make sure that we're really getting the word out that this is a critical time for folks to engage in this. So you may have heard about the new law that passed this July, and some of those changes are that the state of Pennsylvania has been under a series of waivers for work requirements that have been related to high unemployment rates. Now the law says that unless an area has an unemployment rate above 10%, those waivers are no longer allowable. So as of September 1st, those waivers are no longer in effect. So all of the work requirements that were in the law prior to this new bill that passed in July have now resumed. So those would apply to people who are ages 18 up to 54 and don't have an exemption on file. And there's a large list of exemptions that are on the DHS website, and you can go to dhs.pa.gov SYNAP.org/work, and there's a long list of exemptions, but I'll run through some of them right now. If you're pregnant, if you have a mental or physical health condition that prevents you from working 20 hours a week or average of 80 hours a month, and you can get a form filled out by your therapist or your medical provider. It can be a long list of different types of providers that work in those offices. It does not have to be the physician that fills out the form. So we are encouraging those that work in medical offices to make it really easy for those forms to get filled out. If you are a caregiver, you can also be exempt from work requirements. You could, just trying to think some of the other exemptions, I've got them right in front of me. If you have children as of right now under the age of 18, that will be changing as of November 1st, so I'll get into that in just a moment. If you have a disability and you're on SSDI, you can file for an exemption. If you are unhoused, if you're in a mental health or drug treatment facility, if you are enrolled in school or training program at least half-time. So these are just some of the examples of exemptions that could qualify you for not having to file paperwork that shows that you are working at least 20 hours a week or an average of 80 hours a month. As of October 1st, some additional changes that are going to take place are going to have to do with the amount of the benefit that people receive. So up until now, the state has been able to add benefit to your monthly benefits because you are receiving LIHEAP or because you have what they call excess shelter costs, and they sort of automatically apply those. Going forward as of October 1st, unless you are over the age of 60 or you have a registered disability, you will no longer qualify for that automatic deduction from your income, which increases your SNAP benefits. So some people may just start seeing their SNAP monthly benefit levels reduced. They can call into the county assistance office, which is where your caseworker works if you're on SNAP. So it's just the regular number that you would normally call, and ask them to calculate if you have high utility costs or high housing costs. You can ask them to calculate that for you. It won't be automatically added anymore. So we want people to know that because we want them to get the full benefit for which they're eligible. And then starting November 1st, there's an additional series of changes. And one is the expansion of work requirements to a whole new list of folks who previously had not been subject to those requirements. And that includes youth who are aging out of the foster system, as Dr. Edwards explained. It includes veterans who previously were exempt and are no longer exempt. It includes older adults between the ages of 55 to 64 who were previously exempt and will no longer be exempt. So we want to make sure that people are really aware that these changes are taking effect. And I put a flyer up at the registration table, so if you have not picked one up, please pick one up. And you can also go on our website, which is pittsburghfoodbank.org/SNAP changes. And this flyer is available along with a blog that lays out all of the changes by the timeline that that's happening in. And so the number one thing that we are recommending is that people proactively reach out and let the county assistance office know that they have one of these exemptions. That will preclude you from having to file for your work requirements every month for a full year, right? So that's the best way that we can make sure that people are not going to lose their SNAP benefits within the next year. And so people who are on SNAP should be receiving a form from DHS. So if you get one in the mail, we really encourage you to fill it out and send it back right away. If you work with folks who are receiving SNAP, we encourage you to help them fill out that form. All of the forms are available on the DHS website that I mentioned, which I'll just say again is dhs.pa.gov/work, and they're also linked on the website at the food bank, which you can get to just by just Google Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank. It'll take you there, and then there'll be an announcement of how you can get to that page where we talk about the SNAP changes. So it's a lot to take in. It's a lot of changes. So the one takeaway I want people to leave with is proactively making sure that you're getting any exemptions that you have on file will protect you for a full year. And that's sort of the best case scenario right now. And then beyond that, making sure to communicate to folks, if you are between the ages of 18 and 64, you should just check to make sure that you don't have to change anything in the way that your information is on file with the County Assistance Office to make sure that your SNAP benefits are protected. And worst case scenario, because there are some folks who will lose benefits, so also starting November 1st, any immigrant who was previously eligible for SNAP, who is here with a legal status, but not a lawful permanent resident. So they don't have a green card, but they are here with documentation. So that would include refugees, asylees, victims of human trafficking and violence against women. All of those categories of folks will no longer be eligible for SNAP, and so we want to make sure that we're preparing for folks who will lose their SNAP benefit, and so we are anticipating a significant increase of people who will need assistance from the food bank and our network of food pantries, and we are preparing for that, and we have a whole list of resources that people can have access to. You can call our 800 number, which is 833-822-7627, and talk to one of our staff people who will help them access a pantry right there in their neighborhood. You can also go on our website and click the Find Food tab and put in your address or your zip code, and it'll tell you all the pantries and all the places where you can access food that are right close to you. You can even put what days of the week and times of day you're available. And so we try to make it as convenient as possible, but recognizing that SNAP is still the first line of defense. And then for folks who no longer are able to access SNAP or need additional help even with their SNAP, they can turn to one of our food pantries for additional support. So I'll just pause. Do you want me to take questions, or do you want the folks from Holy Family to? Okay, we'll let them talk, and then I'll be happy to take questions if you have any.
Good morning, my name is Colleen Miller, and I work for Holy Family, but my job is as the customer service coordinator for CAP, for the Duquesne Light CAP program. And CAP is the program that helps income eligible families continue to keep a low electric bill. So the program is geared upon to household size and to income. How we enroll someone in CAP is all income based. So I see the potential issue here where if someone who was recently able to be on CAP and now is required to work the additional 40 hours a week may put their little tiny family over income for that discount on their electric bill or their discount on their gas bill, because both programs are managed the same way. That is not something we've seen yet happen, but because it's an income-based program and you are required to provide us with the Social Security benefits or the gig worker, I love that. I'm going to use that. I love that because I often speak with families where they said, well, my income isn't documented. I'm not paid by a business. Just write us a letter. Just write us a letter and say, I make $400 a month. I barter for my rent. I cut the grass. I help my neighbor. So I'm going to use gig worker because I really think that sums it up. Because they're not really self-employed and they're not really certain. So we will permit anyone to use that. We always have. We've never stopped. One of the parts of the program that I am particularly proud of is that we will go to the communities. We go to community outreaches. We spend our time at food banks. We spend our time at senior buildings. We go to senior buildings in the upcoming months to assist them to apply for the Dollar Energy Fund grant, which is a grant if you are a senior and you have no debt, you can get $100 payment. We help them fill out the LIHEAP funds, the LIHEAP papers, because many of the men and women, if you've ever seen a LIHEAP form, it's so tiny, it's difficult to read the lines, it's difficult to know what they're asking you for. We sit and fill those out for the individuals that are in that home. Part of the CAP is to explain the program to explain that it's a payment arrangement. It's no different than any other payment arrangement. The payment arrangement is based upon, as I said, income. The lowest payment that you can get if you are a gas and electric home is $20 a month. We have a very large portion of the men and women enrolled in CAP in that part. And specifically, here's why. As a household of one, under $1,900 is where you are eligible. That's the cutoff, is $1,900. We have many men and women that come in and their Social Security is $965.
What if they have debt?
I beg your
What
pardon?
if they have debt?
If they have debt, if they have debt, we forgive the debt.
Okay, great, thank you.
So what we do, thank you, we go in and we look at the account, and if they come in with debt, maybe they were living in a home and now they're in an apartment and they come in with debt, that debt is frozen. And every time you make that payment that's requested of what your payment level is, we will forgive a portion of that debt. So the goal is no one forgives your debt. You pay $20 or $30 a month, and in the background, they're forgiving $20 or $30 a month of your debt. It is a great part of the program. Additionally, we call them, we follow up. We have community-based offices where you can go. If you are not computer literate, you can go in and you can sit down with someone. We will help you fill out the forms, we'll talk with you. We additionally, and this was done because of our relationship with the food bank, we have a food bank in our office now, and I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the food bank that we have. We also have, we have 2 clothing cupboards and personal hygiene cupboards. So many of us volunteer once a month, and a part of the volunteering process is we get to bring back goodies to the office. So if you come into our office or we go to an outreach, we take soap and toothpaste and baby wipes and diapers and whatever we can get our hands on during that volunteer. Additionally, if you come into our office, my office is actually in Edgewood Town Center. If you come into the office where I work, there's a goodie table there with always something new. Whatever it is that we get when we volunteer, we make sure it's on that goodie table. Crackers, food. I recently received boxes of the MAM pacifiers for the little ones. We put those out. We received boxes of makeup, where the makeup is just a really nice skin cream, something that you wouldn't be able to purchase for yourself, but you would use. So we have that all in our lobby. We also have a CARES program, and our CARES program is a bit different. We will go to your mom's house or your grandma's house or your aunt's house and help her sign up. And when we are there, if there is something else that we see that she may need or he may need, they will share that with Duquesne Light. They will share it with the gas company. They will share it with the Department of Aging, so that that person might get something that they didn't realize that they could get, or that they just were afraid to ask. So, we do live in a city where people, I know my father, he spoke about someone, my father, bright man, didn't read well, he would never have been able to read any or go online for any of these items. So I do see that the possibility exists that some families' bills may go up. Right now, we are working, hopefully, in a way where we will always have things to augment their food or their clothing or their diapers or their baby wipes or blankets, and those items will be there. And as we progress, I know that our partnerships in the food banks will increase and will be there. Thank you. I hope that I was able to explain what I do, and if you have any questions, please feel free to stop by. Thanks.
Thanks, Colleen.
Thanks.
My name is Vince Tarquinio. I am the Senior Director of Community Programs for Polar Family. I won't spend a lot of time, but I kind of want to reiterate what Colleen said. We have a variety of other community programs. All of the other community programs are essentially in collaboration with the Office of Children, Youth, and Family. So, work for families struggling with their children, whether it's caring for them, whether it's an incident that occurred. We work with them to help them keep their children in their home. We have a PAC program, which is, again, similar, but it focuses primarily on truancy, people who, their children aren't going to school, or they struggle getting to the school, or not doing well in school, those kind of things. And we also have a visit coaching program. Visit coaching program, it's actually one of my favorite programs. This program is specifically to help parents reunify with their children. These are kids who have already been removed from the family for one reason or another, the challenges that they've had. And so the program works to help. So all it is a visit between the parent and the child, so that, or children, so that the belief is the more time they spend with that child, the faster they'll get them back. We truly believe that they're better off in their home with their parent. And so what I'm doing here today is most of the families that we serve really are involved with Medicaid, or they're under the poverty level. And so all of these changes, and what I appreciate what Dr. Edwards said, is that we really need to educate our workers to help educate the families that we serve, whether it's in the things that you said, Colin. We really need to spend our time learning about the changes to help folks. The issue about reading, it really is important. It's not unusual for us to go into a home and find a stack of mail that people just don't open because they can't read it, or it's in a language that is different than theirs. And so we really need to spend time doing that. So, and learning those things. The impact of work requirements really will challenge our folks who live in areas where there's not employment close to their home. So it really is it will be a challenge for them, and I think we need to help them navigate how they do that. So I appreciate that, and afterwards, if you have any questions about any of these programs, please let me know.
All right, we're going to have a question and answer after. Good. Let me do an introduction. This is Karen Rowland Fish. I have to say she's a friend of mine. So I think I told you I work for, did I tell you I work for? I work for Highmark Home Care, which is a Medicaid, Medicare,
Managed care
organization.
I only say that because we typically use the acronyms all the time, and when we go out to speak publicly, they get on us about don't use the acronyms. You don't know what you're talking about. So I understand where you got stuck right there because I do it all the time.
But anyway, they were very supportive of this program. So although it's with Gateway Medical Society, Highmark Home Care was very supportive. They helped me find all these resources, and Karen agreed to be on this panel so we could talk about what one of the managed cares can also do and provide.
So good morning, everyone. I apologize for my tardiness. I did come from Central PA this morning, so I'm a little groggy still, but Pittsburgh is my home, and it's always a passion for me to come here and do the grassroots work. As an overview, I do corporate social responsibility for Highmark Home Care, and part of that is ensuring that we donate our corporate funds into the community in spaces across our regions and footprint that make an impact. It's funny because Judy Sapos, who's also in the audience, works on my team, and often we get things from the arts community. And yes, great, we want to give to the arts community, and I know this is a roundabout way to say this, but at this time, in looking at what's going on in our economy, we just can't do right and always give to the arts community because our members need food, they need shelter, they need transportation, they need basic needs. So when organizations come and say, oh, well, you typically do this for us and we can't anymore, It's because we need to read the room in our different areas on what the needs are in those specific communities. So in Central PA, we have a high Latino population. It looks completely different than what we see in Western PA. But we need to understand the nuances of each community. And yes, we're sitting here on the north side. Can we still call it the north side or north shore? You leave for a few years and no, we don't call that anymore. We're sitting on the north side, but the north side also is different than what we see in Lawrence County or Beaver County or Butler County. So we need to be cognizant of the needs of those specific areas. And yes, I'm a little nervous about what 2026 is going to look like. I'm a little apprehensive about how our families, our members, our community is going to survive this. And that's just Karen's honest to goodness truth. I love what I do and I love to be able to help the community, but it is concerning when you feel like the need is going to be far greater than the impact that we can make in that space. So I think it's really important, yes, we have to have someone in our members, our family, our community members' lives that can come in and assist them with reading the information. So here we talk about just the reading level period, right? In Central PA, we talk about if it's printed in English and they only read Spanish. So and that's understanding the different needs. It's just as not useful if you can't understand the language as if you don't read at all. We have to be concerned. We do, our program for our members does have work around literacy rates. We can get you engaged with getting we call it old school GED, new school, high school equivalency, into the high school equivalency program. But all of these needs, if people aren't willing, and you know as well as I know, a lot of times our community members aren't willing to share where their barriers are. So if we're not willing to ask those questions and build relationships so that we can get that understanding, it's going to be very difficult. And today what happens is, I think we had a bye, and if you miss some of the key dates, you had a little forgiveness space. There's not going to be that forgiveness space anymore. If you miss the key dates, you're going to be out of luck. You're going to be out of luck for an extended period of time. So we need our SNAP benefits, we need our Medicaid. It was really hard coming back from COVID when they paused the need for renewals, and now we went back, 2 years in now, we've done back to the annual renewals if you have Medicaid. But now we're going to have to go to getting renewed twice a year. That's way more than what the average member even thinks about or has considered, and it's a muscle memory that they're not accustomed to, so we have to build it. And they need assistance. I often say sometimes it's hand holding, and people don't want to hold hands with their community, but they need it. If you want to support them, it's not that they don't want to do it, they just need that extra help in getting the work done to meet the need.
All right, let's give all of our speakers. So now we're going to have some questions and answers, question and answer time.
What is the possibility of doing group sessions with people as opposed to one-on-one? In terms of just like the basic things of filling out paperwork and that kind of thing. Has that ever happened, or is it a possibility?
From my perspective, and I'll move the mic down, it is definitely something we would love to do. We're more than happy to come out. In Western PA, we have 3 specialists that come out. We have community health workers. See, that's that whole don't use the acronym, have to think about what the actual words are. that will come out and assist in the community. And we try to get out and do activities in the community so that we can kind of get a pulse or a temperature read on what the need is.
Most of Full of Families programs are dealing with individual families, so we don't really have that group access. And some of that has to do with funding, so we don't always have the funding to do group work. And so, but I think in our collaborations with family centers and things of that sort, we can add that. That's something that's worth looking at. That's a good question, really.
I agree with I believe that the little community events where you go to the senior center, you go to the adult community center are wonderful. And I do think that's a wonderful idea. So that's my good opinion about it.
So in terms of SNAP, there is a screener that could be filled out with a facilitator in a group setting, but the screeners have to be then filed with the county assistance office. So one thing that we could take back to the Department of Human Services is, could they facilitate an opportunity for folks to come together in a community setting and do their paperwork together? So that's some feedback that we can provide back to them and see if that's something they're willing to do. But any community group, if you already have folks that are coming together, you could print that screener off of DHS's website and work to fill it out all together. And then, you could have the organization that's facilitating that mail them all into the county assistance office. They may have to be mailed in separate envelopes because each one will have its own case number, but they have to know their case number. That's part of the challenge. So if they get the form mailed to them, which everybody is supposed to get a form mailed to them, and their case number is supposed to be already on there. If they don't get that form, or they lose it, or they didn't know they received it, they can print one out, but they have to know their case number. So you'd have to log into Compass potentially to get that number. So there are ways to do that, and I think it's a great idea.
So it's a tool, it's basically a tool online?
Yes.
Okay.
They just use that word, it's not a bad word, but online.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Today's event, all of you ladies and gentlemen are already working somewhere. You do something already, and you have been doing it. And not you, because I don't know, you personally, but I call them gatekeepers. You can't get through. I know personally, you cannot get through. First of all, you use your phone, you call, you get songs, you get 2, get 3, 4. We cannot get through. I'm speaking for people that I talk to individually, and they have their SNAP, they don't get their SNAP anymore, and they have to go online. They can't even use their phone, let alone go online. And when they try, they get somebody on the phone and they switch you over to somebody else or whatever. I don't know how it's going to happen, that it's going to work. Such as this group that we're here today, and the thing that you're saying need to be heard by the people who need it. Not that we don't need it, or will need it in a minute. I got the information on email, the flyer. I come because I do that. I come to the events like this to keep learning, to keep hearing it. That it's not working for me and the people that I talk to, because the one lady in particular, she can't come, she can't get out, she's in a wheelchair, she just can't do it. It's so frustrating when you go to them, they know that they don't get their SNAP number. They said, oh, I have to go online. She can't. Now, and then the ones who like those persons, now my mother's going to be 102 in November. She eats everything. She eats. She's not bedridden. She eats anything she eats. So she needs food. Now, she didn't have somebody like myself and my sister. I don't know I don't even know where she would be. But those are the people that you say the churches, so we don't want to talk about churches today, doing what they need to do. Because we're just not there. That's the reality. We're just not there at the church taking them out. Because once again, I want to say that needs to have, like you were saying, workshops or whatever, that they could come together as a group. Who would tell them, and how would you get them to come? We're here because we got a car, we got an Uber. It's impossible. It's just not working. And because today, if you're talking about food, they're at the food bank. You're at the line up for Pal, and they're out getting food. You're not coming here today because they would miss their food. So I don't know when the workshop would be available so that they could come. They can't come Saturdays because that's when they get their food at Pal and the other places. They got their things, they're going to get the food. Then you have Sunday, we're in church. And then Monday you're working. That's just the reality. You can't, it's not working. They have all this knowledge and all these papers, and I go home with bags from workshop, take it home, take it to church, put it on the table, but get cart by the mouse it like she reads it. That's talking gibberish to the congregation. Now, the church should have the workshop, which would be under the offices of the missionaries, but it's not working. I'm just saying that on the frustrating part of the people that when I have this today, I'm going to go back and say what you see it. I'm going to take some more paperwork, but it's not feeding them. It's not showing them how to fill out the form. Even if they get it in the mailbox. Like my mother gets it at 102. What can she do with it?
Well, that brought up the question to people that are beyond that 64, that's going to be the new cutoff. Because there are a whole bunch of people that are over 64 that are also struggling with the same needs as the people that are on SNAP or whatever. So I understand what she's saying because there is a group we're not even talking about.
I'm 80, so I don't know where I'm at in the system, in your mindset, in your conversation. Am I at the wrong? So I did a workshop that's for 70 and older. I mean, how am I supposed to keep surviving? I'm trying to help my mother at 102. I'm 80. My daughter's 64. She's going to be 60. So where should I be?
So the one thing, and then I'll let the group also speak. I mean, it is a blessing that we have Medicare. We always have to keep those two things straight here. But we do have Medicare. So if you're over 65 and you should have Medicare. So that is some of your benefit. Now we know Medicare doesn't take care of everything. I think you still have a 10 to 20% deductible or bill even if you have Medicare as far as your health insurance. So you still have to pay. And so that's when you, if you don't have the funds, that kind of is where we also fall in with products like Highmark Whole Care, because we do the dual eligibility. I think in our property level, we also do the dual eligibility. So, I mean, that is where the elderly can fall in.
Well, I don't know, again, for me personally, I don't care where I go, who I talk to, how much paperwork you do, I make 50 cents more. I don't care what you do. You make $1 more than those guidelines. I don't know if it's set up that way in the system. You can't get it.
No,
You say it's $2,000, I make $2,100.
and then also property becomes a issue.
Yes.
If you have property, then you cannot qualify for some of these benefits that we're talking about. And many people don't want to give up their property. Not only that, and this is sad, and this is just kind of anecdotal, but the children sometimes that the elderly suffer because they're trying to hold on to something that they think is worth. So therefore they don't get rid of it, you know, they keep it. And you can't transfer it very easy. That's a whole will and trust kind of conversation that could be had. But at least 5 years from the time you need assistance, from the time you've given it away. So like if you get sick tomorrow, you can't hand your house to your kids so that you can get more benefits. The government frowns on that. Yes, they do know the loopholes and they have definitely stuck in. But maybe to the group, how can we do more community events? How can people maybe reach out to do more in their own little circles so that they can help those people in their circles? Because she's right. We expected more people here today. They're not here. But we also understand that they need assistance in sometimes getting here. So.
Or sometimes maybe we take it to where they are. If the food pantry or food bank is giving out today at, I would assume you're talking about Propel on the north side?
It's at King this morning.
Or
King.
Or at King.
3 minutes down the road.
And I was wondering, because I saw all of the people out there this morning on my way by. Then we take it there. Let's partner and have a conversation with PPS and say, look, can you give us a room or a space so that we can have these conversations to help the community? When I lived here, Pittsburgh Public Schools were all about doing more in the community and having classes in their buildings open. And I don't know that that necessarily happens so much anymore, but that is a very thought-provoking idea. We can take it, we can go, we can move.
So why don't you?
In some spaces we do, but we don't always know about where the highest or the most dense portion of our community is going.
Go ahead, Nancy, but then I would like to say. So I think those are great questions. I will say the information in this flyer, we literally have been working on it. It just was finalized yesterday. Our plan is to make sure that everyone that comes to one of our food pantries, one of our distributions, calls our office for any reason, that we are sharing this information with them directly. The Allegheny County Department of Human Services is also asking all of their providers to make sure that the participants that use their services, even if they're not food related, know about this, are trained to help people make sure that they can get their information uploaded into the system correctly. So there is an all-out effort that is just kicking off as of yesterday to really try to get to people where they are, because one of our biggest concerns is that when this happens, people will be caught unaware and surprised, and then the wait time to actually get someone to answer the phone at the county assistance office is going to be hours and hours long. And so what we are trying to do is to get people in the door now, before November 1st, so that they don't risk losing their benefits either in December or February. If you are subject to work requirements for SNAP and you are not on file as having an exemption from those work requirements, you have 3 months within a 3-year time period before you lose your SNAP benefits if you're not filing that you are in fact working and submitting the correct paperwork. So our hope is to reduce the number of people that have to file on a monthly basis, because DHS at the state level, those are the ones that have to process all the paperwork. They will tell you they are significantly understaffed. So they don't have enough money to hire new people, and they estimated earlier this year that they need about 200 to 250 new staff people to process all the new paperwork that's coming in. So we know we're sending people into a bad situation where they could get stuck in a phone tree listening to terrible elevator hold music for hours, and people have lives to live, right? They're working, they have kids, they have older people that they're taking care of. They just don't have the patience or the phone bill to sit on the phone for hours on hold. Our system is different at the food bank because we have so many people calling us. What we do is we have people leave a message and we call you back within 24 to 48 hours, which isn't perfect, but you don't have to sit on hold. So we try to make it a little easier for people. So we are encouraging folks to call us. Just Harvest also can help people file their SNAP benefits. They have great staff there, very friendly. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible within a system that is set up with a lot of barriers and challenges. So I hear what you're saying, and I will say, so I did look up while you were talking about monthly income. For a single person for SNAP benefits, the monthly gross income level is $2,510. So $2,510 is the current monthly gross income maximum that you can make. And then when you're on SNAP, they adjust the amount of benefit you receive depending on what your income is and what your monthly expenses are. There's a really complicated formula that I could not explain even if I tried. And then there are also senior food boxes, which are a supplement to what you might receive through SNAP and through the food pantry. Based on what you just said, you're probably not in range for that, but that's $1,956 so it's 150% of the federal poverty line for that extra supplemental box of food. And we have no control over what goes in that. That's mandated by the federal government, but it includes things like juice and cereal and canned, beans and things like that. It's meant to be additional food above and beyond what you can get through SNAP and through your regular food pantry visit, or if you go to one of our distributions like the one that's down the road here at Pittsburgh King. So again, it's really not a perfect solution to anything. That's part of my job in government affairs, is to try to advocate for the solutions to be better and to meet the needs of the community better. And we are actively having those conversations with our government officials, but sometimes we're able to have them and have successful outcome, and sometimes, like what happened this summer with this new federal legislation, it's becoming more challenging for folks to get access to what they need. And so the other solutions, as Dr. Edwards mentioned, is really trying to get the whole community involved into supporting people. And in an ideal situation, more and more people will be able to proactively protect their benefits, and then the folks that are caught unaware will be as small a number as possible. So that's our hope. We know that some people are still gonna, have to fall through the cracks there. We're just trying to make that number of people as small as possible by getting the word out as quickly as we can. And like I said, we just got this information. Pennsylvania just decided to implement these changes really within this last month, and so they just got their information up on their website last week, and we're now getting it out the door as quickly as we can, but it is a very imperfect process.
Hold on. Did one of you have,
I actually just wanted to add
do
one.
you have a new question?
Do you have any questions?
Or
Well, actually, what I wanted to say is, I'm Lorraine Starsky, I'm a registered nurse, and now I work as a nurse consultant for Project Destiny, Thrive 18. It's based here on the north side, and we don't provide services, but what we do is help people get linked to services. So we are the people who will help people fill out these applications, which I think are crazy. I have 2 degrees, and I struggle with it. So, but what I wanted to say is that when I worked as a public health nurse for the Allegheny County Health Department, what I did was I would go to the produce to people distributions, and I would go early, and I would go down the line. They always line up, and I would talk to people about, my focus then was health insurance, and trying to get people medical home, particularly if they had diabetes or high blood pressure. So I would spend a lot of time talking to people, and I had flyers for the different federally qualified health centers. So I'm thinking that is kind of a model of what needs to happen at these food distribution events that draw a lot of people. And I know that the food bank has a very good, robust set of volunteers, and I think you could train some of the volunteers to go to these food distributions where people line up and go with this flyer and maybe have somebody there on site who can work with people and really kind of overcome what this lady said, which is the constant issue of always being put on hold, never talking to a human being. So I think these food distributions in the next month or two are going to be very vital events to reach these people. And ditto with your food pantries. You know your food pantries better than I do. Maybe there's food pantries that are open more frequently, and they could benefit from a trained volunteer being there, helping people figure out their paperwork and where they should go, what they should do. I would say DHS needs to be part of this. We need as many people at the table to figure this out, and also not just for food stamps. I'm concerned about what's going to come down the pike when people get kicked off Medicaid, medical assistance. And again, maybe we need a task force to come together and figure out what are we going to do for people who get kicked off. How can we get them a medical home and a federally qualified health center? And how can we support those federally qualified health centers? Because they're certainly strapped. But and the other thing is, I say this because this used to be a source of frustration for me all the time when I worked at the health department, and that is, oh, they can just go online and find out. No, that's great, but you know what? I'm old school. I'm an old school activist from the late 60s, 70s. I can't even tell you how many days of my life I spent flyering. I'm sorry, we got to print these flyers up. We got to make posters. We got to put posters in laundromats. We got to put posters in the community. Another ally are the libraries. We need to bring them into the mix because a lot of people go there. It's sort of a de facto community hub. Like I used to do a lot of work with the Hill District Library, the Hazelwood Library, the Homewood Library, the Braddock Library. So that's another place where we could maybe have materials, embed people there to help people fill out paperwork.
I'll let you two speak, but then Colleen, maybe you can also, or even, I don't know about your program, but I know you take volunteers, so maybe you can talk about that.
Miss Lorraine, I have to say that I'm walking your shoes. So when I do food banks or I go to events, I walk the line. I walk up and down the line. But I wanted to add something. If you looked at this as the library, the community center, the food bank, what about the geriatric doctors? Has anyone approached them and said, I know you're busy, but could you please remind that patient that you're seeing 90% of the patients that are over that age? Please, could you do this for us? Could you please remind Mrs. Smith that those benefits need to be filled out? And we do have them. You're going to have doctors, I think, that would be very interested in being a part of this because it's going to affect them. So you go to the doctors, you go to the dentist, you go to the podiatrists, you go to people that the men and women of that generation or that age are seeing, and you say, please just join us with this. Please just join in here so that we can do that. They used to call it wraparound, where you can just wrap around them and you can look at every single area of their life where the food bank, the dentist, the podiatrist, the doctor, Hillman, any place where we know that we're going to be able to see men and women of that certain age, because they're the men and women that are struggling the most with the computer. They're the person that needs that piece of paperwork. to be assisted filling that piece of paperwork out. So that was all I wanted to add.
I would say first, I'm surprised that you're 80 years old, really great. So, I would say in our community programs, probably 98%, and that's a guess, are on SNAP benefits. And so DHS is aware that this is happening. They've done some initial, I guess, actions by just sending out information. I don't know that they have anything more active to do that. And I think one of the things that would be important for us to do as leaders of our communities, those, for example, that flyer should be part of, we should be giving that to every one of our clients. And we should be I should be contacting other leaders in community organizations to say the same thing. We really should be doing this. And I think at least a small effort to at least start it and get people aware of what's happening. It is a challenge, no doubt.
Colleen, maybe you can talk about volunteering.
So we have thousands of volunteers that support the food bank, either directly or through our partner network. We have about 1,000 partners that we work with across 11 counties, and we couldn't do anything without our volunteers. I don't remember what the number is, but it's like close to 100 full-time staff equivalent, just in the folks that volunteer directly in our main location. And at our distributions that we facilitate. So we absolutely need volunteers. I really like the idea of trying to figure out how do we get trained volunteers. We actually have someone right now that's looking at training volunteers for going to community events and being able to talk about how to access food. So we might be able to think about, could we have some specialized volunteers that can help with this piece as well. So I think that's a great idea. I think one of the challenges is that people access information in a lot of different ways. We do have the ability for community partners to come and attend our distributions and walk up and down the line and share their information. We limit it to two community partners at each distribution, and we do limit the number of distributions you can go to, because we've got hundreds of folks reaching out to us to say we want to get our information out to the community that you're serving, and there's so much need on so many different topics that it's just really hard to cover it all, and we don't want to overwhelm people either by having 10 people come up to them and give them information. So we try to make it efficient, but also friendly to the people that are coming to get food from us. So again, most people who want to volunteer do have access to some sort of phone or computer and can sign up online, but you can always call the food bank just at our regular number, which is 412-360-3663. And 412-460-3663 is just our main phone line. As long as you call within our office hours, they can transfer you to somebody who's there in the office. But if not, you can just leave a message and somebody will call you back within a day or two. We never ignore a request to volunteer because we need somebody so badly. And then we're also just encouraging people to give if they have the capacity to do that. The community members that we're serving, frankly, are very generous themselves, but we know there are people who are not struggling, who really care about these issues. We just had somebody, doctor, call us yesterday and say, we've heard about all these changes that are coming and want to donate, and so people can do that, because we're going to have to start purchasing a lot more food. At the same time as these changes are happening, we've also had reductions in the amount of funding and food that we get from the federal government. We are working to turn that around and move in the other direction there. But last year, for example, we lost $5 million worth of food and funding from what we had been getting from the federal government, and yet we served 5 million more meals last year than we had the previous year. That we've been serving more people now than we ever have in the 40-year history of the food bank. And since the pandemic, the need has just gone up significantly. So when we look at the numbers between 2021 and 2023, which is the most recent data that we have, food insecurity across Pennsylvania jumped 40%. Food costs have gone up 25%, and they're not going down, right? So even if inflation comes down, the costs aren't going to drop. They're just not going to continue to increase, right? So food costs are up, and they're going to stay up. And we know people that are working that just can't afford to buy above the limit to receive SNAP, maybe above 200%, and yet their housing costs and the food costs and utility costs and everything else is just too high. So we're serving people who are at the lowest poverty levels, and then folks who would be considered middle income but just can't afford to buy enough food to serve their families. And so we really are expecting those numbers to continue to go up. And if people want to volunteer or donate their time or their money, however you want to get involved, we would love to have you join us. And you can call us directly. You can go online if you have that option available to you. But any way you connect with us, we'd be happy to have you.
Okay, a couple questions. Hello, thank you for the time. This was very informative. One, I know this is being taped, so how do we get this information to help share it with our network? Two, for nonprofits and churches, I attend a large church on the hill. How can we bring this stuff here? And even with your flyer, I'm already like, okay, I'll get some, start passing it out, share it with my staff as a nonprofit leader. What are the strategies, if that's available, so we can help be proactive opposed to reactive? To do this type of form, event again, just put information out.
I think this is the start. I'll be really honest with you. Dr. Edwards probably approached me at the end of July.
Okay.
And at that point, I was like, we're not ready yet because things were changing. So it was so fluid. This came out, this was the statement that came out. Then 2 weeks later, that's not really the statement.
Right.
Or this has changed. So I think maybe we're finally at that point where it's not fluctuating, so we can actually have a conversation.
Okay.
We can talk to people, we can put information out, and we're not so fearful of, it's erroneous before the next week hits. So we're getting there. Step one, good point, good place. Step two is really seeing, I think all of us, I may be speaking out of turn, are willing to go out and say, we can start building this kind of movement to help people because we can't do this alone. This is not silo work. We have to pull together. We have to lean on each other and understand where the high point is in the community, where we're going to get the biggest, and honestly, to me, it's always how do we get the biggest bang? Where we're going to make the most impact, because we do need to reach so many people. I do this work because I think about, I say it all the time, Aunt Marge. Aunt Marge was my grandmother's youngest sister. She probably passed maybe 5 to 10 years ago. Aunt Marge only did days work all of her life. So she didn't have any benefits at the end of the day. So she would be considered our dual eligible person. She was on Medicare and Medicaid. And how would I need to reach Aunt Marge? So that's always the premise that I come from. I don't care. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll stand on my head because Aunt Marge was important to me, and I know everyone, we all have people in our family or in our lives that are important to them, important to us, that are being affected by these changes, and we need to do what it takes to reach them. So, and Highmark Home Care has a brick and mortar location called the Connection Center in the former Bellevue Hospital.
Oh, yeah, suburban general.
Thank you.
She used to work there.
Thank you. I'm like, there's so many names. And it's open 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. You can go in. We have a concierge there. Evie is a great young woman that does Compass work. And we'd really like you to be a member. We really would, but if you're not, we still work with you. because everybody needs that support and assistance. So she will assist in a lot of ways in that space. And I know UPMC has community centers, and they have one in the East End. I'm sure that they have a team that will also work with members, hopefully the community also. As well as some of our other departments have community health workers that go out, and they're typically a little more member focused, but they're educated on whatever the issue is that they need to assist. So could they come and speak at a location on what's going on, what's not? More than likely, yes. Are they going to be able to actually help with the application process? Not necessarily if you're not a member, but we have different ways to reach that, because our FQHCs have, our federally qualified health centers have community health workers also. And so we just need to tap in and pool our resources.
Sometimes, I was just gonna say, sometimes it's just, once you get into the community, the people in the community can take it out to the other persons. And I think that's kind of key to what we want to do.
I'll be more than happy to give you my card. We can connect.
I think that's exactly the right point. One of the things that we know is that the best communicators are the trusted resources that already exist in the, where do people already go for their information, and who do they trust? We want all of those people to be aware of what's happening so that they can be communicating the best information. And as she said, this is really just starting, right? You all are at the forefront. You're the first presentation I've done since we made this flyer. So you're getting the information earlier than anyone else. So if you want to be a trusted resource in your community and pass it around and make sure everyone that you know that's also a trusted resource has the information, this is how we have to network to get it out. You can't just come from one source. It's got to come from every source possible.
Can I say one more thing? To the food bank lady, Bessie. I don't know what it took to get us where we're at today, conversation-wise. But the I get on realities, personal realities. Nothing I read, I wasn't taught at a community college or what. Hands-on personal. People did not just now get hungry. They have never just now got hungry. And we just have been allowed at the door, in a sense, to sit at the table and talk. I directed a food pantry for 17 years from the community food bank on Duquesne. Before COVID came. We were feeding people, clothing people, doing whatever we needed to do. It wasn't no government money or whatever. We did this. Churches, community, people like yourself. So, I don't know. I personally believe in my heart, because I tried to work. Get a job, get no. Family, friends, and what? Or at the table, behind the scenes to get the pay, right? We've been doing this forever without getting paid. From a personal perspective, I'm saying. So we didn't just get hungry. We didn't just now get seniors. We didn't just now get any of this. And my personal opinion is, it's who's in charge, I guess I could use that word, who's getting paid or what, need to be trained. Maybe you need to get out and, don't talk about swimming. Get in the pool where it is. You're not there. What you learned in the book, or like a doctor could do this, or you have a person who works with divorced people who've never been married, you know what I mean? They're the ones at the table. You can't talk to me anymore. I'm not saying personally. I can't take any more information, because it is not, at the end of the day, helping the pain. I'm looking for somebody who can seriously do something for the people I know who are hungry, who don't have clothes, who don't have this. But these papers is not helping. If I took all these home right now, I gotta figure out, I know how to do it, but I can't because I'm not in that realm, your realm. That's what the problem is. Not you personally, that's what the problem is. They can't do nothing with it. First of all, you have to have a ride or a car. You should get Uber, you gotta pay Uber. You know what I mean? And in the food bank, we talked about the senior box. I know what the senior box looks like in and out. But back in the day, if you want to call it that way, when we fed the people who were hungry, men, they didn't have a bowl of water. When they come got that box, they just knew they were hungry. But then we had, at the church, we had the workshop that shows you how to cook it after you got it. You can be in line now and take home 10 bags of food if you can't cook it. So it's more than, you know what I mean, just saying we're going to do this, we're going to do that. The whole gamut has lost this direction if you ever had it. You know, sometimes, you know, they will say you have to walk in that person's footsteps. Yeah, you're going to start walking in our footsteps. Coffee is done. But getting that box, even getting that food, you don't know how to cook it. You know, vegetables, you know, that's where I'm at with it. You know, another workshop is not going to help me.
Let me get around the room.
But we've always been hungry.
Jerry Allen is here. I know she is a community.
Good morning. I apologize for being so late. I know my way here, but a lot of the roads are closed off, and a lot of them one way. But I'm thankful that I'm here because I just had an opportunity to get over to the Highmark Home Care Connection this week, and I had such a wonderful experience over at your new site over at Suburban. And I thank you for having that site here with access for Northside participants. My statement is, and listening to Ms. Gwen, who is a part of one of the churches that I have worked with for 17 years, and there are others in here that know me from working as a faith-based church collaborative partner. I truly would love to see Gateway that we would be able to take from this and that we would be able to host with some of the faith-based partnerships to do some one-on-one, it's called, training, where we do some mentorship. I'm retired now. I'm not looking for another job, all right? But I want to see those 18 churches that we have here, and I know some of you are representative of other areas, but there are 18 churches just here on the north side that could not be here today for whatever reason. Because when Gateway put information like this, 3 years ago, we were at the table and Gateway said, let's put together a list of places people can have food during COVID. And thank you, Highmark Home Care, because you supported this community during that time with food. And you're still supporting us with food. And I mean, we just had a health fair on August the 16th. I hear you, Ms. Gwen, about knowing how to cook, but they have wonderful training rooms now. So we don't have to look for another space. We may be able to come in as small groups through Highmark Connection site at Bellevue and host. And you need to be one of the first hosts over there to help with this. Because you and I are retired. Thank you.
I volunteer at a food bank for 10 years. Been doing it quite a while. I'm retired, so I have something to do. And the lady that's the head of our food bank, she has implemented where she has got so many of us to volunteer that she does her own boxes. So when people come to us and say, I can't make it, she'll have us make boxes up, and then we'll all take them to where they need to go, because we're trying our best to help, because we've noticed, like you said, our lines are getting longer and longer every time we have it. And then we get the fresh produce, but we get cabbage and greens and all that. So people really come up for that. But she has us where we have such a nice community, and it's at a church. You know, the food bank's at a church. So more and more of the people, you talked about people not being able to cook and stuff, we have the food bank for 4 hours. But we have some people that are there the whole 4 hours because we have the tables, we all sit, we all communicate. They love it. And it's about the food and everything. They're like, oh, what would we do with this can of this? And we all just sit and have community together. And lots of times she has cookouts, she gives away free food, she gives away clothes, she does all that. So I really appreciate her, and I love being up there because it's more, it makes me feel good that I can help all the way around. Well, not just the food, but like I said, with the clothing. And talking to people is just fantastic. And a lot of people are just so prideful that they don't want to come up here because it's like, I never thought I got to listen. We're all human. Everybody needs help sometimes. Don't be embarrassed that you have to come over and get something. We're like, well, she got to take what you need because she has all this to help you. So I see the people every time. Oh, I don't know if I should. If you need 3 cans of tuna, take 3 cans of tuna. Don't be embarrassed and then let somebody else know. And if you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes next time, you can come up and volunteer. Once you get, and we tell a lot of people, once you go around and get your food, stop, go help somebody else go through the line. I mean, every little bit helps. So, I mean, I understand about the food boxes and everything, but like she has really incorporated more and more things, and more people are coming up to volunteer because we know it's in Penn Hills. You know, the Penn Hills is wide, and there's not a lot of buses in Penn Hills, so a lot of people can't get where you need to go. There's a lot of side streets. But we all get together, and she's like, well, can you take this here? Yes. And you don't ask for nothing. It just makes you feel good that you can help somebody else. So a lot of people can incorporate that to see who has cars. Let's say, you know, you got 6 people on your end of the street, and you take a box for 6 people, take them with them. And then she also helps with the paperwork and everything. But she wants us to start learning more about the different paperwork and everything since we are getting more people. So she has us have meetings and discusses everything. So I just sent her a flyer just in case you didn't know. Because we have a group text for all of us. And she sends, I send 2 group texts so everybody knows, you know, this came out.
Before we tie up, Vince, I have a question for you. Because you talked about a little different program with your youth and family. So how do people contact you, or how can we get our youth into your programs if they're needed? Because you talked about truancy and...
Depends on which program you're speaking about. Unfortunately, the in-home program
You need to get closer to it.
The in-home program and the visit coaching program, they are truly funded by the Office of Children, Youth, and Families. So you have to be connected with children, youth, and families.
Okay.
The PAC program, though, is one that is more available to other folks. And
You gotta put the mic up.
oh, sorry.
Is it on?
Like right up.
There you go.
Maybe I should start singing.
Do that too.
The PAC program is one that is more accessible, and it is one that, yes, CWEF children and families can refer to that, but it also can be connected through DHS. And they don't necessarily send the referral, but if a school says this child needs help, they can call the family, the school can call us, the family can call us, we can send that request to DHS, and they'll send it back to us as a referral. It does work on truancy, but it is a program that is more about family counseling. And it's not just the truancy program, although that's what it's used for currently. And so there's actually a technique in there that they call active listening. And so what a lot of you are talking about now is really listening to people and understanding what they're really struggling with. They might say it's hard, but what does that really mean? And so if you ask more questions about it, then you see the challenges that they really have. so that's a program that can be very helpful. And that idea of really listening to people and understanding what they're facing, other than just their initial words, is really important. So that program you can access that.
All right. Well, we're at our 11 o'clock hour. I thank everyone for this conversation. Do you all have anything else you want to
I just want
say?
to say one more thing. And your story about the work that was done in Duquesne and Penn Hills, and I think this is a really good point that, the food bank, we're a giant organization that serves 11 counties, and it can feel a little impersonal when you think about, us as an organization, but all of those really personal relationships that are happening out at the pantries, right? That are part of our network, that are partners with us, that are sourcing food from us, and our job is to make it as easy as possible for them to get as much food at as little cost as possible. And so that's where we try to advocate for more government funding and more funding from our community members that want to be able to give. And, so that all of those great things that are happening, the social time, the connections, the relationships that people have, that's part of feeding people is not just giving them food, but the love and the community and all of that comes together, and we couldn't do that without our partners out in the community who have those deep relationships. And so I just wanted to lift that up because I really appreciate the example from both the communities that you both mentioned. There's really great work happening out in the communities with our community partners, and our hope is that we can get all of this information that's way too complicated out to them in as simple a way as possible, so that people don't have to be overwhelmed with all the details. They just have to know, okay, I need to fill out this form and make sure I get it into the county assistant's office. And if I can just do that one thing, then my papers will be on file and it'll be okay. And the process to do that is not as easy as what I just said, for sure. But I don't want people to worry about all the little details because it's too much. I look at them every single day, and I still sometimes get overwhelmed with the amount of information, the new things you have to learn. So I just want folks to know that don't worry about all the little details. We try to make the steps as easy as possible. And if you don't know, talk to somebody at your pantry. Call us. Call somebody that you trust, that you know, and if they don't know, they can call somebody and find out. So we just don't want people to wait and worry. So that's my hope in having these conversations with you all today, and the conversations that we'll continue to have going forward, is that people know that they have somewhere to turn. Even call 211, right? That's something that I know that people, sometimes know about and sometimes don't know about. They have a whole list of resources that if you need something beyond food, you can get everything and talk to somebody about all the different needs that you have at the same time. But, just talk to the folks that in your community might have the answer, and if they don't have the answer, they can try to find it for you. And DHS, like I said, is going to be working with all of their providers across all different service areas to try to get this information out into the community as quickly and easily as we can. But it's not a perfect system, and these changes are happening really quickly, and unfortunately it's going to be a challenge to get everybody on the same page, but we just got to do it together. So I appreciate that you're all here today, and hopefully being willing messengers to get this information out to the folks in your own community. So thank you.
I did neglect to talk about one other program. It's our SNAP.
Take the mic up.
I did neglect to talk about one of our other programs. It's our SNAP program. This is a program that is stop now and plan. And thinking back on my youth, I should have just listened to my mother, because she always said, think before you do. And that's really what it's about. And it's a program that helps younger children, that anyone can be part of this program. These are children between 6 and 11. And you're talking about getting people early. Someone spoke about that earlier. This is about catching children and teaching them to manage their emotions so that they don't become more deeply involved in the system that's hard to get out of. That's a program that does exist. And again, that can be for anyone. You don't have to be low income or anything like that. You just call us and we can be referred to that. And ages 6 to 11.
I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you for allowing me to come this morning, and I have my card if anyone would like to reach out at a later time. There are definitely there's information that I heard today that I'd like to follow up on and maybe spend some more time with you and get to know you a little bit better. So thank you.
So as I stand here with two hats on today, one for Gateway Medical Society, and it was while we used to be Gateway Medical Plan, Gateway Plan. So I had two gateways, but now it's Highmark Home Care and Gateway Medical Society. I have to say, when I joined Highmark Home Care, one of the reasons I joined was because of the mission. And you know, it's not just an insurance company. That they let me do things like this, that they let Karen, that they support us in things that are past my job, you know, because they do know how important the community really is. And so I appreciate you all coming. The one thing I heard more today is, although I'm standing here as a physician saying you need insurance and you need to be taken care of, I understand if we don't feed you, and if we don't clothe you, and we don't house you, you're not going to worry about your health insurance. So we need to take care of these issues so you can take better care of yourself. So please reach out to our resources. I think they'll be here a little bit longer. I think Colleen may have to leave, so we want to hit her up first. But please, and I think we're ready for lunch. Is Tamara? I'm sorry. So I think there was supposed to be another part, men and women's health. But we see that maybe this is more important and has a lot more conversation that you want to have. So what's going to happen is you can get lunch and then you can sit and talk to our vendors or talk to our vendors and then get lunch, however you want to do it. But there won't be the men, although I see one young man over there. Oh, he's with you. Oh, okay. Okay, so therefore, we're not going to have the women's and men health section. We're going to let you have lunch, so you get a nice lunch, and then you can talk, and then you'll be able to leave. But I appreciate, and hopefully this was very informational to all of you. It was informational to us. Definitely, Jerry, you know, we will always get with you and see what else we need to do, both from the Gateway side, and then I know you know Karen and Judy, and see what we all need to do to continue helping with our committee. You know, many times I belong to other social clubs, and even this sometimes, because we still need to do social things, but I feel like if we're not reaching the people, then we're not doing what God has put us here for. And I ask Him every morning to make sure that I am doing His purpose. And I'm going to say one more thing and then I'll end it. You don't have to rush as much now. But, you know, if we are sitting in our churches, and I'm going to talk about my church too, if we are sitting in our churches and if we're paying tithes and offering to our churches, and if we are paying those people, then we should have a voice. And if we can't get our churches to do what we need them to do for our communities, then we need to still stop paying. Because money speaks. I'm sorry, money speaks. And so therefore they will look at us and say, why aren't you paying? But you got to get more than one person. Now you by yourself ain't gonna make a difference. But you need to be able to have a voice in your church. Our churches used to be where our community could turn to. And now it's no longer there. And that's our fault.
That's right, Screech.
That's our fault.
Yes.
You know, we started to rely on the federal government and the state, and what the federal government is telling us now, we're not going to support you anymore.
You're on your own.
And so you need to go back to your communities, and we need to support each other. So I encourage you to go back to your church, to your pastor. And some of y'all sound like y'all in some big churches. So you need to go and have your church make a difference in your community.
I just have one question. I'm always energized by the people who come to the symposiums. This feels more like a provider symposium to me than a community symposium. But I always hate walking away without a plan for how we're all going to get together and move it forward. And how we're not going to meet every 6 months at a fair or a conference. And to me, I feel that's been the disconnect, you know, and I know we want to put our churches in the middle, but all of us have missions, and how do we make what our mission is available from all of you to the people that we do reach. Our community symposium used to be 200 to 300 people. And we really were able to reach more people. And it's just changed since COVID. And really want to know, what do we do? How do we get together and say, here's what I commit to, and we all have this opportunity to meet here, and I didn't want to let everybody walk away, and I have your card and you have my card, and life is crazy. Because even in my doctor's office, we're supposed to try to call people back the same day. We tell them, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Because nobody has enough employees. There's not a lot of workforce. So how do we work together to make this efficient but beneficial?
So she's doing a call to action.
Yes.
I know everyone in here cannot do it, but I think Tamara has everyone's number. I know Jerry always says she's retired, but I don't. I don't know what that foolishness is. So I do think there may be some key people in here that we can put together and then bring information back to the masses as a whole. I think that is something I got out of this that we're going to try to do. I don't want to preach to y'all. So you can now go get lunch and talk to our guests if you have any more questions or have any more suggestions to them. And thank you again for your participation.